Ladies and gentlemen, so great to be here. Thank you. You know, I want you to know that one of my very first exposures was at Phoebe in El Segundo with Matt Owens, who happens to be one of my husband's best friends. And when we started at that meeting, there was 6 of us. And I have spoken, unbeknown to me, like at all the Phoebes, everything that you had up there except for NoHo. What's up with that? And I have not spoken for Bigger Pockets, probably because they claim to be one of our competitors. I have no competitors. I share my information. So I am delighted to be here. I promised I would share the story. I was asked to speak, I don't know, in February or March, and I didn't, it was through my assistant. I didn't remember if it was going to be live or in person or whatever. And I had a 3-day event last week. We had 2 events, one in Anchorage, Alaska, did an amazing, and then we had one in Las Vegas for 3 days. And then I had this speaking event, and tomorrow I have 99 people in Las Vegas. So I flew in at 5 p.m.
Over a little because the screen is showing on your face.
Got it. I'm going to stay right here.
Is this okay?
So I flew in at 5 p.m. And as soon as I leave here, I have to drive back home to Las Vegas because I have to meet with my team at 7:30 a.m.
So I need to highlight something. So she came to this meeting. She wasn't sure if it was in person or virtual. She confirmed last week it was in person. So what did she do about it, guys? Just made it happen. Did she call me and cancel? Did she say, I'm sorry, I'm in Las Vegas the next day? That's a little hard for me to be in Pasadena that night. So what did she do? She got her ass on a plane. She flew in this afternoon. She's talking to you guys on Zoom this evening, and she's going to drive herself back to Las Vegas to keep her commitment over there.
Oh, wow.
She wasn't highlighting it. She wasn't owning it.
Well, because I always kind of say, if people would do what they say they're going to do, our life would be so much better. Yeah. Like, business would be easier. Like, just do what you say you're going to do. And so I said I was going to be here, and I'm here. Now, here's something that's very true about a real estate investor is I could fly from LAX at 11:30 p.m., but I refuse to pay $400 for a ticket. So I am a true real estate cash flowing investor. So I'm going to drive, you know, whatever. My team will be there. I'm going to have makeup on tomorrow morning. It is going to be fab. So, okay, thank you. So I don't have a clicker. I'm going to have to push. What am I going to do? I'm going to have to push this button. There we go. That's me. Who am I? Super easy. I'm a mom. That's my handsome husband. Oh, and my amazing little boy, Mateo. Mateo is my Y. I'm a mother. I'm a real estate investor. I talk about my why a lot because I feel like if we're not crystal clear on why we're doing what we're doing, it's like, why are we doing it? I heard this evening, I hate my job, I want to quit my job. I heard that loud and clear. I've heard that before. And your why has to be that big. For me, my why is I wanted to be a mom. I wanted to make a difference in people's lives. And so this is why I do what I do. I grew up really, really poor. I grew up here in Highland Park. Back when I grew up here, I was the only Latina in the place. And I grew up in Highland Park when it was the ghetto. Avenue 43 was the gangs, Dogtown, and I'm sure a couple of you are smiling. It was Dogtowns and the avenues. It was dangerous where I was growing up. And I just remembered that we just had enough. Now, I didn't know I was poor, but because it was so much love. I mean, Puerto Rican familia, that just goes a long way. My mother's Mexican, and I was just like, I didn't know a difference, but it was to the point where we just had enough to eat. And I just needed to make a change. So I graduated high school. My parents said, go to school, get good grades, get a great job. That wasn't for me. But I did go to school. I got good grades, and I went into college because I wanted to be an attorney because I thought that that's what was going to make the money. So I got into law school, UCLA law. I did education abroad in law school. And when I got to Spain, I sat in the front row and I was listening to Roe versus Wade, and I was like, I cannot do this for 4 years. But I had a full scholarship. Like, I was the only one that was going to college, and I thought, how am I going to tell my parents that I'm like quitting law school when I got a full ride? So my friend, she was working at in mortgage banking countrywide. And I said, I don't care what you do, but you need to get me a job in that place, because I'm telling my parents that I'm quitting law school because I got this amazing job. And this amazing job was drawing ducks on DOS. I just aged myself. This was like that time, you know, and I was like, oh my God, I didn't care. I instantly got a job in subprime. Remember that? Totally aged myself again. But it was the best thing, because what I saw is I was doing refinances and loans for teachers, for people that were picking up, like, you know, babysitters, mechanics. And I thought, if these people can buy a home, then 6 months later, because back in the day of subprime, you were just like, anyone that could breathe would get a loan. And then they'd take the money out and then would buy another house. And I was like, wait a minute, what the heck are they doing? And I started to really learn the system. Before I knew it, I bought my own house. At the time, I was making $30,000 a year. On my very first flip, I made $86,427 here in LA, South Central. And I was making $30,000 a year. Now, mind you, by this time I had already done the subprime, I already knew the ropes, and I thought, you know what? I'm gonna do more and more of it. So I was buying owner-occupied, and then I would fix it up, and then I would sell it, and I'd buy another owner-occupied, fix it up and sell it. That's how I did 24 flips in 1 year. So I had a huge team, and I quickly realized it was about the team. Long story short, in 2008, when the market turned, I realized I was not a flipper, I sucked. I was just really, really good at finding the deal. But then I was like, well, if I don't have anything to, yeah, you too, in common, right? So I like had, oh my God, I had a little bit of money, not enough to do anything here in LA. And so I went and I started to do real estate in the Midwest and in the South. My first market was Danville, Illinois. I could not even fathom, guys, and you guys are gonna totally feel me. I couldn't fathom that there were markets in Middle America that I could buy for $50,000 that were rent for $700. I could not even believe it. Like, I'd go over there and I said, okay, this house, $50,000, like 3 bedrooms, 1 bath, 50 grand, like I couldn't believe it. Long story short is, before I knew it, Phoebe started, and they're like, how are you buying a house in Danville, Illinois, and Memphis, Tennessee? When Matt Owen started, he's like, how are you, he was just starting in Memphis, how are you doing this? You're living here and going over there. And I was like, you know what? I created a team because I'm great on the phone and I love talking to people. And that's how I started to do it. Before I knew it, people say to me, how are you doing this? Can you teach me how to do it? So Matt started a course. At the time it was Epic Real Estate. One day he comes home and he says, I'm going to start a podcast. This is 2009. And I was like, great, what's a podcast? Because nobody was podcasting. There was literally less than 100 podcasts. Tony Robbins was one of them. And I thought, you're going to be on a podcast like Tony Robbins? Yeah, right. Well, we've been podcasting since 2010. We now reach, that says 350,000, I lied. We now are at 382,000 downloads an episode. And mind you, I do a section on that called Turnkey Tuesdays. And I totally took a hiatus during the summer because I wanted to be a mom. And I'm literally getting calls in the office saying, Mercedes, you haven't done an episode on Turnkey Tuesdays. So for those that are asking, I promise I'm getting back to do that. Long story short, I started a turnkey operation, but the reason I really expanded that is because I want people to feel what I feel when I don't have to go to work. Now, I get to go to work because I love what I do. It's my passion. I actually don't want to point anybody out, but I have 2 clients in the room that collectively, I think they have 16 properties now, more. And how many?
Almost 40.
Shut the front door. Okay, so see, and it's so funny. I remember speaking to them, and when they came to me and they were just buying their first rental, and they couldn't believe it. And they said, I want to go out and fly to go see my property. And I said, great, well, Less than 1% of the population that I work with actually flies out there to go see their properties, but sure, eat your heart out, go for it. And here we are now, almost 40 properties. Wow. Congratulations to them too. How do I go to the next slide? Do you guys want, do I push it? Do I move? Do I not? Awesome. Okay, here's what we're going to cover. I know we have 45 minutes. For me, it's really important that you guys get value. I am here to answer any questions, and if I cannot squeeze it in this 45 minutes, you have my word that you can reach out to me. I answer my emails. I pick up the phone. Sometimes it takes me a little bit to answer an email. Sometimes I answer it right away. Sometimes it takes me a few days, but I do answer every one of my emails. There, I'm getting a nod. Here's what we're going to cover. How to buy a cash flowing property creatively. I actually closed a deal and I brought everything on that deal so you guys can copy exactly what I do. I'm going to show you how to build a cash flowing portfolio creatively. I'm actually doing that with one of my clients, but I've done that, if you listen to the podcast, many of my clients, because I love to create infinite returns. And I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. So I'm going to show you how to cash flow a portfolio with infinite returns because it is easier than you think. Cool? Push? Awesome. Are you going to be my pusher, honey? Uh-oh. Do it again. Oh, I didn't realize I wasn't going to have a clicker and it's going to be a little bit challenging. Okay. So real estate facts. Keep pushing. I'm sorry, buddy. Okay, supply and demand.
Jessica did ask if you could volunteer earlier tonight. We have time on the slot.
There you go. Awesome. Okay, we can stop right there. So, real estate facts. Ladies and gentlemen, I mean, real estate, it sounds really complicated. And the reality is that people complicate it because it's really not that difficult. There's solid facts, supply and demand in every aspect of our lives. So it's not only with real estate, it's look at the problem that we're having with Amazon right now in the port. Supply and demand. In our case for real estate, land is the supply, demand is people, supply is fixed. God is not making any more land unless there's a volcano happening. No more land's being made, so it's what we got. And population is growing. People are still having babies, they're enjoying sex, so they're multiplying. And there's like nothing we can do about that. So my thought process is if I can do anything in my life to make money that it's never going to go away, I'm going to do it as much as I can do it because real estate is never going to go out of style. Here's one thing that I know. Click. Sounds like it doesn't relate, but it does. Oops, you went backwards, but that's okay. You can just leave it right there. A real estate transaction is an agreement between a buyer and a seller. That's it. It's not that complicated. When a seller has a house to sell and you're interested in buying it, all you have to do is have a meeting of the minds, make an agreement, and a deal will happen. It's that simple. Now, of course, there have to be contracts, and of course, real estate agents want to make commissions. That's okay. At the end of the day, the buyer and the seller call every shot and make every decision. Cool? Click. Okay, we said it already. Buying with creative terms builds wealth faster. I highlighted terms and I highlighted faster because everything happens in terms. If you can control one of the two, I promise you, you will get a deal. Now, I've said it. Now I've put it between the buyer and the seller because I want you to be very clear that this can happen with any transaction. Not my transactions, but any transactions. Click. Cool. This is what I tell all of my sellers when I find a deal. And it's super simple. Write this down. Because, click, it is, Mr. Seller, it's your price. I will give you your price if it's my terms. Or, click again, or click again. It's either your terms and my price. I will always work with the seller if they give me something in return. Cool? I'm going to show you a transaction that I did during COVID. I think I closed this in February or March. So click on this. This is one of my beautiful houses in, you guys might recognize it. Click again. In Alabama, Penland. This is done by my Alabama team. Alabama is one of my hot markets. It's one of my favorite teams. I have 38 rentals in Alabama. And this was sold by an investor that was motivated to sell. So click. Fair market value on this property was $143. Click. The seller was asking $129.9. Click. The market rent is $1,200. Now, basic numbers. I knew the seller needed to sell. There's about $13,000 in equity. Not too excited about $13K. Price point of $120. I thought, okay, let me see what I can do. Didn't like it too much, but click. Keep clicking. Easier if I had the clicker. I look at the market rents. I'm usually at the 1% rule. I was just shy the 1% rule. So I thought, not too excited about it. Let me see what I can do. I always, ladies and gentlemen, I use something called a 3-option letter of intent. No matter what, when a deal comes across my desk, I will always send them an offer. And the offer is in form of a 3-option letter. First option is a cash lowball offer, and the second options are my terms. Their price, but my terms, okay? So I thought, okay, I'm gonna make an offer, and here's my offer. Oops, click again. Offer. So I said, I'm gonna give you, Mr. Seller, your price. I'm gonna give you your price of $129,990. Click. I'm gonna give you 100 payments of $600 a month. Click. I'm going to give you a balloon payment on the 101st payment. Click. And the seller said no thank you. He wanted something more. I have this rule in my life. I never let the ball bounce twice in my court. Never. When they say no to me, I will always come back and say, okay, let's try this. So click again. I said, make me a counter offer, Mr. Seller. He said, okay. So the seller countered me at $129. We had already agreed on the price. Now I had the seller saying, okay, we now have the price locked in. Now I just have to work my terms. So I said, okay, I'm going to give you, he said to me, let's do 20% down. Click again. 30-year amortization at 5%. I was like, 5% doesn't do too much for me, but okay, click. He wanted a balloon payment in 5 years, click. So I did the quick and dirty math. I took the rent of $1,200 a month, and I multiplied it by my PITI. Quick and dirty math is 60% of what it's going to cost me. Oops. Then I took the $563, which would be the payment. That would leave me a cash flow of about $157 a month. If I multiplied that times 12 and I divided that by what I came in, I'd be like at a 7% cash on cash return. Hit that. Not too excited about that. So I said to the buyer or to the seller, no, thank you. Oop, did we get stuck? Now you messed it all up, lady.
I probably did.
Yeah, just click on the screen.
Click on the screen and then it'll go forward.
No, thank you. Of course, I don't let the ball bounce twice in my court, so I did a counter offer. And here was my counter. I will give you your price, Mr. Seller. Let's see what else I offered them. I don't do 20% down, but I can do 15% down. So now I took them down a whole whopping 5%. I'm going to do a 30-year amortization because I wanted a lower payment. I want more cash flow in my pocket. And I said, I am going to tier the interest. For the first 2 years, I'm going to give you 3.5% because I want to pay down as much principal as I can. And then year 3 to 5, I'm going to give you more than what you asked me. He asked for 5%. I said, I'll give you more. The reason I'm giving him more is because I have a plan. And the plan is, and I'll go into it a little bit later, but the plan is I'm not going to ride this more than 2 years. So let's go ahead and click. Balloon payment is going to be due in 5 years, right aligned with my plan. And I need a 6-month moratorium, Mr. Seller, because COVID just happened. And I have no idea if I'm going to be able to put a tenant in here. So click. That gave me a potential cash-on-cash return. Can't see it there, but it's about a 29%. Then I said, I waited patiently, click, and he said, you've got yourself a deal. So instantly, there was the ball bounced, I think 4 or 5 times we went back and forth. I put it under contract and I started my due diligence. So instantly, I said, okay, what happens now? First thing I did was an inspection, got my inspection. The inspection came in and said that I needed roughly between $3,000 to about $4,000 in work. Took the middle number. I said, okay, $3,500. Verified with an appraisal that we were truly at $143,000. Appraisal came in. I said, you know what? I don't want you to fix the stuff because the house was pretty rent-ready. I'll take a credit. I'll take a credit of $3,500. So, can you click for me? Since you're there? Cool. There, I just took the down payment from a whopping $19,000 down to a $15,000 down payment. Now think about that. I'm buying a $143,000 house and I'm only paying $15,000 out of my pocket. I'm like, even better. I said, I don't want to pay $15,000 out of my pocket. So what do? I call my hard money lenders, or I called one of my lenders. I'm lucky, I have a lot of capital lenders. So one of my capital lenders said, yeah, I'll lend you 20%. I didn't need 20%, but he would lend me 20%. So I said, great, what's the rate? 6%? $26,000, 6%. Sounds like a deal to me. I'm already thinking I'm pocketing some money. Okay, so let's click again. Ooh, now you messed it up, girlfriend. Okay, here we go. Stop right there. All right, so I took all of our quick and dirty math. We take the gross rents, the $1,200 that we're collecting every month. I then take the insurance, and that's a hard cost of insurance monthly, and then I roughly, property management is 10%, the other figures are roughly 10% of the rents collected. That gives me a net operating income of $778. Now, remember, I have the first lien in place. First lien in place, payment is about $495 a month. And then I'm borrowing the money for the second lien. So I was like, oh, or for the down payment. That gives me a payment of about $130 a month. After I factor everything in, I'm left with $153 a month. Now here's the cool part. Is that $153? It's free money. I've just borrowed $26,000 to buy this house. Click. I think you messed up my bracket. So that creates my infinite return because I took no money out of my pocket at all. Click again. So now I just made the 10K. They just lend me money off the 20% of the actual fair market value. That's how I got the figure of $26,000. I only had to put $15,000 down. The rest goes right in my pocket. Little do they know that my plan is to click again, take that cash flow. I'm going to work that cash flow, click again. 6-month moratorium. I collected rents for 6 months. I just pocketed 10K because I borrowed more than I needed, and click again. I'm now going to get rid of this second, and if we click once more, I'm going to offer a discount payoff to the first, usually at about 1.5 to 2 years. They're comfortably receiving their little payment a month, and now I'm going to say, hey, how about I pay you $80,000 for your $110,000 note? When people get, I'm going to get $80,000, it's crazy how people will accept it. So ask me because I do it all the time. So click again. All right, here is where I love to build wealth. Now, I just showed you an example. Go ahead and click a lot of times until all the little houses come up. So I'm big on, and I'll tell you when to stop, when you get to the last 150 on the last stop right there. Okay, perfect. I am big on maximizing leverage. We just talked about interest rates dropping super, super low when I was networking over here. Rates right now are at 3.5%. 30-year fix, no prepayment penalty. It's crazy. Like, it's super low. It's not going to be super low for a long time. So I took that example that we just had for my property, and I multiplied it times 9. Now, the reason I say 9 is because most middle American investors own their own primary residence. So Freddie and Fannie will allow you to purchase up to 10 properties with only 20% down, okay? I want everyone to maximize that as much as possible because it's cheap money. Number one rule is you buy with a fully amortized 30-year fixed payment. Number 2 is no prepayment penalty. And number 3 is you dive in and maximize your 9 as much as you can, okay? Sometimes you might get stopped, trust me. But once we get to the 9 properties, we now have a cash flow portfolio, individually owned. I'm going to teach you how to create a portfolio with infinite returns on your second batch. So let's click. Have we heard of portfolio loans? Anyone? Okay. Portfolio loans are, you're in the middle of one. Portfolio loans are so underrated, and they're so readily available if you know who to go to. Portfolio loans are based on assets, on actual portfolios. So it doesn't matter what your FICO score is, kind of like what the sponsor was saying. It doesn't matter what your FICO score, because it's just based on the asset. Now, I have a love-hate relationship with portfolios because once a portfolio, always a portfolio. So if you put 9 properties into a portfolio, you're stuck. They are 9 properties in one portfolio. That's looked like one portfolio, okay? So we have to be careful with how many properties we put into a portfolio. And that comes usually segregated if you're in separate markets. I like to segregate it by markets. It just makes more sense. I like to simplify your life while you're doing that. Let's click again. So here's how we create a portfolio. First thing you're going to do is you're going to create an entity. Depending on your situation, could be an LLC, could be a trust, depending on where you are in life and what you're doing with your portfolio. Do that first. Then, let's click. We are now going to do a cash out refinance from our personal names into this portfolio. Super easy. So you own 9 properties individually. You go back and you say, I want to take all these out of my personal name. I want them to go into the portfolio because the bank portfolio loan will lend on the projected income of the property. So let's think about that. If your property cash flows $150 a month, there are banks that will lend you on that money up to 75% for a projection of 20 to 30 years. Right now I'm seeing 25 years. Up 6 months ago, they were still doing a 30-year. So the more time, obviously, the more money you get, okay? So that's step 2. Step number 3, when you do that, your portfolio still cash flows. So currently your portfolio is cash flowing $1,300 a month. Your portfolio will still cash flow. Not as high, but you'll still be able to pull money out because we're borrowing off the projected income of the property, okay? Once we do that, let's click again. You take all the cash out, and now you go and buy 9 more properties of your Freddie and Fannie available properties. Because remember, you did a cash out refinance from your personal name. You now put it into an LLC, so you personally don't own anything anymore. And now you go back and buy everything at 20% down, and today's rates are 3.5%. With Freddie and Fannie, you can only do 9 properties. Portfolio loans are unlimited. You can do these over and over and over again. There's no limit because it's based on the asset. Click again. see you guys taking pictures. This is what creates your infinite return. I promise you, it works. I've done it over and over again. If you listen to my podcast, I've interviewed probably about, 8 different clients that have done just this. Now, it doesn't happen overnight. Omar's in the middle of it right now. Sorry, I didn't mean to rat you out, but you're in the middle of it right now. Super doable. Let's click again. Oh yeah, you do it over and over again. This is how you create wealth. Now, I always leave some time for questions and answers because I see hands going up like this during the whole thing. So I love your questions.
You said take the property out of your name, but you have to take the loan out.
Yeah, that's what a cash out refinance is.
But the credit is still on your personal name.
Right, but so remember, when you buy with Freddie and Fannie, that's conventionally, yes, it's based off your credit score, your debt to income ratio, and you as an individual. When you take it into a portfolio loan, you now have a portfolio. Remember, all these 9 properties that you own individually, if you put them into one portfolio, they're no longer owned by you individually. They're owned by the LLC, which is now asset-based. So I don't care what your credit score is, I don't care anything, because it's now based on the asset, not you. So when you do the refinance, what happens is the portfolio pays for those properties, and then you get to benefit from the cash flow of the new loan, which will be less than $1,350. I think I did the quick and dirty math. I think you'd be cash flowing $1,000. But don't quote me on that. Ma'am.
Question.
Yes.
Wouldn't it be better to put every house in the portfolio as you buy it, and then you can keep buying houses?
If you want to pay closing costs every time you do it, yes. Yeah, the idea is for you, if my magic number is 4 to 6 properties, that's my favorite. Never your primary residence, just personal preference. Okay, so if you do 4 properties, 4 properties, you're only paying origination points and everything twice rather than 8 times. And you know how origination gets, it gets nasty. So that's just taking money out of your pocket. The good thing about portfolios is the more that you put into it, the more cash you get out. The bad thing is the more you put into it, like if you can't just sell one out of the property, you have to sell everything. You have to break the whole portfolio. So I'm very careful when I build portfolios, how many I put into each portfolio, and then I try to balance it out.
So one portfolio can hold how many properties?
It's up to you. There's no limit. I limit it for my clients because there's so much at risk. So let's just say you get sued for one property. However many properties are in that portfolio, all now become part of a lawsuit. Now, I've never been sued, neither have any of my clients, but what if?
Right.
Yeah.
But what about, like, when you say portfolio is a trust or an LLC, so you will create different trusts or different LLCs for different portfolios?
Correct, per portfolio. Now, the trust and LLC, I would refer you to our attorney because I don't do any of that stuff. I say trust just depending on where you are in life because it's easier for you to maneuver out of a trust. But that's what the legalese people do. I don't do that. Cool. I saw a question over here. Okay, so Johnny.
So for those of us who have different properties in different areas, how would you segregate? You were saying there's
Yeah.
specific way you segregate. Can you explain a little bit?
I do, yeah. The reason I like to do clumps at a time by markets is just reasons for tax purposes. It is a financial nightmare if you have one portfolio with a property in Alabama, a property in St. Louis, a property in Minnesota. It's just too much paperwork for one portfolio. I just do it for simplification reasons. Trust me, when you start to build a portfolio of like 40 properties, you will thank me because it's a financial nightmare for your bookkeeper too.
By market areas, you mean by cities?
But I do by states.
By states?
Yeah, by states. It's just because you have to file a tax return and it just makes your life so much easier. And then when I do portfolios, I even diversify within the state. So like, let's just say you have properties in Alabama. I'm a huge fan of having price points of $90,000 and properties in the $120 to $130 range. And then those get clumped together into a portfolio. Because when you, or if you ever decide to get rid of that portfolio, the portfolio will be even keeled. It'll be more attractive to sell.
And then you also group like properties, like residential versus commercial, separate?
I don't do commercial. Everything I do is residential, so I don't have an answer for that.
Or how about single family versus multifamily?
Yeah, that I could do, yeah. My multifamily, I max it at 4, just because I don't like to deal with 80 unit buildings, but yes, I can clump those together. Those I often think about, okay, well, the price point of the rent dictates the caliber of your tenant, so I try not to put my nicer properties with my multi-units. Just makes sense, yeah. Sir?
Two questions actually. First is typical regular cash out refinance has a seasoning of 6 months. If I do a portfolio loan, does it mean the last property I bought has to be worked with at least 6 months, or can I do a portfolio loan on day one?
You can do portfolio loan day 1 because it's based on the projected income of the asset.
Okay. And the second question is, if I decide to sell a property that is within the portfolio loan, how does this affect the loan and the other property?
You can't. You have. That's what I said. The good part and the bad part. It's like if you sell one property, you can't sell one property in a portfolio of 5. You have to break up the whole portfolio.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's why I have a love-hate relationship with my portfolios. But there you go. Yes, sir.
Can you be separate entities within that portfolio?
Can you do separate entities? Yes, but why would you want to do that?
For protection?
Asset protection?
Mm-hmm.
Then just do trust because it's cheaper, in my humble opinion. Yeah, so remember when you do an LLC, you have to do a tax return for every LLC.
Yes.
So if you have 8 properties in one portfolio, you want to do 8 different LLCs? I mean, you can. I don't know why you would. It would be a financial nightmare. And it would be expensive, especially in the state of California.
That still would determine how they can be sold?
Well, no. So when you do a portfolio, you can't do it on one property. So you can't have one LLC and one property and do a portfolio loan. You have to do multiple properties in there. Yeah. So wouldn't make sense. Wouldn't work. Cool. Yes, ma'am.
Is the idea that the portfolio loan is going to appraise for higher than each house individually?
It doesn't appraise because, well, they do appraise it. They don't care about the asset. They care about the projected cash flow of the asset.
And that will give you a greater cash out than doing appraisal
Correct,
per house?
correct.
How much greater?
It could be anywhere from 5 to 10%.
Depends on your cash flow.
It depends on your cash flow. So one thing that I have a lot of clients that do Section 8, and they only want to do Section 8. And when they only want to do Section 8 tends to pay a little bit lower. When you turn that into a portfolio loan, it's based on the cash flow. So you want to maximize that as much as you can. So yeah, always based on the cash flow, not the asset. Awesome. Ooh, another one. Ooh.
Any difference between short-term rental and long-term rental in the portfolio loan when it comes to cash flow projection?
So I don't know if you can do a cash flow or a portfolio loan on a short-term rental because they ask you for rent rolls. So
They have a T12 anyway.
yeah, I haven't done that, so I don't know. Yeah.
For what?
Rent rolls. You have to prove that your tenant has been paying rent for 3 to 6 months, depending on what kind of loan you're doing.
Short-term rental?
Yeah, yes, but what if it's not consistent? I don't know. I don't have the answer to that. I don't do short-term rentals. Yeah, ask Jay Massey. Yes, sir.
And that appraised value of the portfolio is based on the cash flow,
The
without
projected
the debt
income.
service, correct?
It's the projected income.
But not including the debt service, correct? Because it's the income minus the expenses, right? But the
So it depends, because there are loans that could just do it off of the projected income with the debt service, and then there are loans that you can do it just based off the rent itself. So that would probably have to do with the lender, and I'm almost sure that I could do both, but I'm not the lender. Yeah. So if you've got something, I'll be happy to refer you to my lender. Yeah.
and that would be from like a hard money lender or
No, it's a portfolio loan asset-based lender
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
They have specific lenders that specifically.
that specialize in portfolios. Yes, absolutely. One last question over here, sir.
Yeah, are those portfolio lenders private lenders or they're like banks?
No, it's a full-on bank. The ones that I work with are full-on legit banks. None of them in the state of California, but they lend in 43 states. So I work with 3 preferred ones just because I know their systems, I know how fair they are, I know how their prices. I'm sure there's more. When I find something that works, I maximize it. So I work with them.
Do you know why they don't do California?
Yes, because it's expensive as hell. No, actually, I don't. I don't know, but for the same reason, I don't understand why they don't do New York. New York is one of them markets so hard to get a loan for New York. I don't even know why, but I don't invest there and it doesn't cash flow, so who cares? Okay, I'm gonna, can you click one more time? Click again. Okay, so I put just concept of creating wealth is super simple. It's relatively easy. You just have to have the right guidance. And I feel like I can't say that enough. This is why I talk about it on the podcast. We interview a lot of people. There's so many experts out there. So, you know, pick one way to do things and then just dive into that if it's working. I mean, I pride myself in doing no promotions at all. You'll never see me on Facebook. We're not on Instagram. I don't promote. We have a YouTube channel that's amazing. And all we do on the YouTube channel is just give information. I sell cash flow savvy properties. That's it. They cash flow. But truly, it's just word of mouth for me. So it works well. So I'm going to give you, click on that one more time, please. All of this here is, I created something called a rat race escape plan. You go to my website, Nothing for Sale. You click on the download, and it shows you how to get out of the rat race and how I did it. It's completely free. There's nothing for sale there. Not even my properties. You can't go to my website to find my properties. So I do that just because it took me about 3.5 years to get out of the rat race. I was doing this full time, and I did it. And then when I got out of the rat race, I was right at 39 years old, and I thought, what am I going to do at 39 years old? And I'm retired. So then I started teaching it, and here I am. And I'm so glad I did it. So that's my give to you. The one thing that I am going to tell you about the rat race escape plan is just be honest with yourself. It's a step-by-step little process. Just be honest and real with the numbers and think big, because I did, and look where I'm at. So that's what I got for you guys. You got some? You had a question? I didn't say that. I didn't hear that.
How can we get to your podcast?
Oh, Epic Real Estate Investing Podcast. No, it's just called Epic Real Estate Investing. There's a handsome bald man on the cover. That's my husband. And then there's me. Yeah, and you cannot call me out because I have not done a Turnkey Tuesday episode since the summer. I'm starting in November, I promise. Okay, so people at home, you can't call me out. Awesome. It was a pleasure being here. Thank you for having me, Missy.